The outcast Marcus Thorne had grown accustomed to the stairs. 23 years of living with twisted legs and a hunched spine had taught him that people saw his disability before they saw his mind. The mining station's corridors weren't designed for someone who needed a powered exoskeleton to walk, but Marcus had learned to navigate them with the same precision he applied to fixing broken machinery. "Another rejection," muttered Chief Engineer Baldwin, tossing the application tablet back across his desk. "Look, Thorne, you're clever with repairs. I'll give you that. But deep space mining operations need people who can move fast in emergencies. Your ... condition makes you a liability." Marcus gripped the handles of his mobility frame tighter. "My condition didn't stop me from redesigning your plasma extractor efficiency by 30% last month." "That was theoretical work," Baldwin waved dismissively. "Real engineering requires." Alarms suddenly shrieked through the station. Emergency lighting bathed the office in red as the floor shuddered violently. Baldwin's face went pale as he checked his console. "Seismic event in Sector 7. The new deep-bore operation." His fingers flew over controls. "We're reading massive structural failure. The entire excavation complex is collapsing." Marcus was already accessing the station's systems through his neural interface, a modification he'd made to compensate for his limited mobility. 47 miners trapped in the lower levels. The main support beam network is failing in cascade. "Evacuation." "Teams are mobilizing," Baldwin said, then cursed. "But the access tunnels are blocked. We can't get heavy equipment down there." "What about the emergency maintenance shafts?" "Too narrow for rescue equipment. And the structural integrity is compromised throughout the sector." Marcus studied the schematics flowing through his neural link. The situation was catastrophic, but patterns emerged in the chaos. Load distributions, stress points, critical failure. Sequences. His mind processed the data faster than the station's computers. "There's a way," he said quietly. Baldwin looked up from his frantic communications. "What?" "The old mining drones in Storage Bay 12. They were decommissioned because they couldn't handle the new operations, but they're small enough to navigate the maintenance shafts. Those drones are 30 years old. Half of them don't even function." Marcus was already moving toward the door, his exoskeleton whirring softly. "Then I'll make them function. Give me 12 hours. "Thorne, this is madness. You're not certified for emergency operations." Marcus paused at the threshold. 47 people are going to die if someone doesn't act. I may be crippled, but my mind works just fine. As he made his way through the station's corridors, Marcus could hear the rescue team's increasingly desperate reports. Time was running out, and he was the only one who saw a solution. The broken engineer was about to prove that limitations existed only in the minds of those who refused to think beyond them. The impossible solution storage? Bay 12 was a graveyard of obsolete technology. Dust-covered mining drones sat in neat rows, their hulls scarred by years of hard labor before being replaced by newer models. Marcus activated his portable workshop setup, a collection of tools and interfaces he designed specifically for his physical limitations. "Come on, old friends," he murmured, approaching the nearest drone. "Let's see what you've got left." His neural interface connected to the drone's systems, revealing the extent of the damage. Worn actuators, degraded power cells, corrupted programming. It was worse than he'd expected. But Marcus had spent his entire life working with broken things, including himself. The first drone took 3 hours to restore to basic functionality. While his hands worked methodically on the hardware, his mind raced through calculations. The rescue operation would require precise coordination, splitting the drones into teams to navigate different shaft networks while maintaining communication links. "Status report," came Baldwin's voice through the comm system. Marcus didn't look up from his work. First drone operational. Working on the second. "Thorne, The situation is deteriorating. We're reading atmosphere leaks in the trapped sections. Those people have maybe 6 hours of breathable air left. Then stop interrupting me, Marcus replied, his fingers flying over the drone's control matrix. I need to modify their navigation. Systems for the current shaft configurations. The second drone proved more challenging. Its primary processor had failed completely, requiring Marcus to jury-rig a replacement using components from 2 other units. His exoskeleton's power indicators showed he was pushing himself beyond safe limits, but he ignored them. By the 4th hour, he had 6 drones operational. Not enough for a full rescue, but sufficient to begin reconnaissance. Marcus initiated the first phase of his plan, sending 2 drones through the maintenance shafts to map the current conditions. The video feeds that returned were sobering. The shaft networks were partially collapsed, filled with debris and unstable support structures. Any human attempting to navigate them would be crushed within minutes. But the drones were small enough to thread through gaps barely wider than dome. Their hulls. Incredible, breathed Dr. Victoria Cross, the station's chief geologist, who had joined the growing crowd of observers. You're actually doing it. The drones are reaching areas we thought were completely inaccessible. Marcus nodded, his attention split between multiple video feeds. The real challenge begins now. I need to create a relay network to maintain communications with the trapped miners. The next phase required splitting his consciousness between multiple drones simultaneously, using his neural interface to coordinate their movements through the treacherous passages. Each drone became an extension of his will, navigating by instinct and calculation through spaces that defied conventional navigation. Contact. One of the drone's sensors detected life signs. I've found them. Sector 7, Level 12. They're alive, but the chamber is filling with toxic gas. Marcus's exoskeleton sparked as he overloaded his systems, pushing his neural interface beyond its design limits. Pain shot through his skull, but he maintained control. 47 lives hung in the balance. Beginning extraction operations, he announced, his voice steady despite the agony. This is going to be the hard part. Against all odds, the extraction chamber was a hellscape of twisted metal and poisonous atmosphere. Through the drone's cameras, Marcus could see the trapped miners huddled in a pocket of relatively clean air, their faces masks of desperation and dwindling hope. The chamber's structural integrity was failing by the minute. Can you hear me? Marcus's voice emerged from the drone's speakers, startling the miners. Who is that? Came a weak reply. The rescue teams can't get through the main passages. Marcus. Thorne, station engineer. I'm operating these drones remotely. We're going to get you out, but I need your help. The lead miner, a woman named Janet Rodriguez, stepped forward. What do you need us to do? Marcus was already calculating load distributions and escape routes. I'm going to create a relay system to get you through the maintenance shafts. It's going to be dangerous, but it's the only way. His neural interface blazed with activity as he coordinated multiple drones simultaneously. 2 units began clearing debris from the primary escape route, while others established communication relays. The mental strain was enormous, like trying to conduct an orchestra while solving differential equations. The shaft network is compromised, Dr. Cross reported from the command center. Multiple structural failures are cascading through the system. You're running out of time. Marcus could feel his exoskeleton's power cells depleting rapidly. The neural interface was drawing more energy than his body could safely handle, but he pushed forward, beginning individual extractions. Smallest. Person first. The rescue process was painstakingly slow. Each miner had to be guided through passages barely wide enough for human bodies, with drones providing light and clearing obstacles. Marcus's consciousness fragmented across multiple machines, each one responding to his will like an extension. of his own body. Rodriguez, there's a collapse ahead of you. Stop and wait for my signal. 2 drones worked frantically to shore up the passage, while a third found an alternate route. Marcus's vision blurred as neural feedback overwhelmed his senses, but he maintained control through sheer determination. 23 people evacuated, Baldwin reported. You're halfway there, Thorne. Power levels critical, Marcus muttered, checking his exoskeleton status. I need to reroute systems. The next phase proved even more challenging. The remaining miners were trapped in a deeper section where the atmospheric contamination was reaching lethal levels. Marcus had to push his drones to their operational limits, using their emergency reserves to maintain life support for the evacuation. Can't. Feel my hands, he whispered, his neural interface burning like fire in his skull. But I can still control the drones. One by one, the miners were guided through the treacherous passages. Marcus's exoskeleton sparked and sputtered as he overloaded every system, pushing his equipment far beyond safe parameters. Each successful extraction was paid for with increasing physical agony. 38 evacuated, came the report. 9 still trapped. Marcus's vision went dark for a moment, then cleared. Still have 9 drones operational. We finish this. The final group was the most dangerous. They were trapped in a section where the ceiling was actively collapsing, with only minutes before complete structural failure. Marcus split his remaining drones into 2 teams, using one to create a distraction, while the other guided the miners through a route that existed only in his calculations. Final extraction beginning, he announced, his voice barely audible. This is going to hurt. The ultimate test, the final 9 miners were trapped in what rescue teams had classified as a death zone, a section where the ceiling was collapsing in slow motion, held up only by the groaning remains of support structures that could fail at any moment. Marcus's drones showed him a nightmare landscape of twisted metal and crushing debris, with poisonous gases seeping through every crack. Rodriguez, you're the last team leader. Can you see my lights? Barely, came the weak reply. The air is getting thinner. Martinez passed out 10 minutes ago. Marcus split his consciousness between his remaining drones, using 3 to create a temporary support structure, while the others mapped the only possible escape route. The passage was a death trap, a maintenance shaft that angled sharply upward through areas where the station's hull had been compromised. I'm going to guide you through one at a time, Marcus said, his voice distorted by the strain on his neural interface. It's going to be a climb, and you'll need to move fast. His exoskeleton's power cells were nearly depleted, sparks cascading from overloaded circuits. The neural feedback was causing seizures, but Marcus maintained control through pure willpower. Each drone had become an extension of his consciousness, responding to thoughts rather than commands. First person, move now. The evacuation became a desperate race against time. Marcus's drones created a human chain through the shaft network, with units positioned at critical points to provide light, clear obstacles, and monitor structural integrity. His consciousness fragmented across multiple machines, each one requiring precise control to navigate the treacherous passages. Ceiling support failing in Section 7, Dr. Cross reported. Massive structural collapse imminent. Marcus could see it through his drone's sensors. A catastrophic failure spreading through the mine support network like a deadly wave. The mathematics were clear. At current evacuation rates, the remaining miners would be crushed before they reached safety. Change of plans, Marcus announced. I'm collapsing the alternate passages to redirect the structural failure. It'll buy us time, but cut off our escape routes. Thorne, that's suicide. Baldwin's voice crackled through the com. You'll trap yourself in the system. The drones are trapped, not me, Marcus replied, his hands moving in ways that defied his physical limitations. I'm safe in the workshop. The drones are expendable. But that wasn't entirely true. His neural interface was so deeply integrated with the drones that their destruction would cause massive feedback damage. He was quite literally putting his mind on the line for the trapped miners. 6 more evacuated, came the report. 3 still trapped. Marcus's vision went completely black as his neural interface overloaded. For a terrifying moment, he lost connection to all his drones. Then, through sheer determination, he re-established contact with 2 units. Rodriguez, Martinez, and Chun. You're the last ones. The support structure is failing. You have maybe 2 minutes. The final extraction was a nightmare of collapsing passages and failing equipment. Marcus used his last 2 drones to create a makeshift elevator system, literally carrying the miners through sections where the shafts had collapsed completely. His exoskeleton finally failed, leaving him paralyzed in his chair, but his mind remained connected to the machines. Almost there, he whispered, blood trickling from his nose. 50 more meters. The final moments were pure chaos. Marcus's drones died one by one, overwhelmed by debris and structural failure. But they had done their job. The last 3 miners emerged from the maintenance shafts just as the entire excavation complex collapsed in a thunderous roar. All 47 miners evacuated successfully, Baldwin announced. Casualties, 0. Marcus Thorne collapsed in his chair, his body finally succumbing to the strain. But he was smiling. The broken engineer had achieved the impossible. Recognition 3 weeks later, Marcus sat in the station's central auditorium, still recovering from his ordeal. His exoskeleton had been rebuilt with improved systems, incorporating lessons learned from the rescue operation. The neural interface had been upgraded as well. The doctors warned him about the long-term effects of the overload he'd endured. Ladies and gentlemen, announced Director Helena Vasquez, the head of the Terran Mining Consortium, we are gathered today to honor a man who redefined the meaning of heroism. The auditorium was packed with miners, engineers, and officials from across the sector. Even representatives from Earth's government had attended via hologram. Marcus felt uncomfortable with the attention, but he endured it for the sake of the people he'd saved. Marcus Thorne, Director Vasquez continued, demonstrated that true engineering excellence comes not from perfect bodies, but from perfect minds. His innovative thinking and selfless courage saved 47 lives. The presentation continued with technical analysis of the rescue operation. Marcus's solution had been so unprecedented that it was being studied by engineering schools across human space. The concept of using obsolete drones for complex rescue operations was being implemented at mining facilities throughout the sector. The Terran Engineering Council has voted unanimously, Director Vasquez announced, to award Marcus Thorne the Star of Innovation, the highest honor in our field. As the medal was placed around his neck, Marcus thought about the journey that had brought him to this moment. Years of rejection, of being told he was too broken to be useful, had led to this. The crisis had revealed not his limitations, but his unique capabilities. In addition, Director Vasquez continued, Mr. Thorne has been offered the position of Chief Innovation Engineer for the Consortium's Deep Space Operations Division. His first assignment will be to design new safety protocols for hazardous mining operations. After the ceremony, Marcus found himself surrounded by young engineers eager to learn from him. Among them was Janet Rodriguez, the lead miner he'd rescued. Thank you, she said simply. Not just for saving us, but for showing us that heroism comes in all forms. Marcus nodded, looking out at the faces around him. For the first time in his life, people saw him not as a disabled person who happened to be an engineer, but as an engineer who happened to be disabled. The distinction was everything. I spent my whole life being told what I couldn't do, he said to the group. The crisis didn't change my limitations. It changed how I used them. My mobility issues forced me to think differently, to find solutions others couldn't see. The rehabilitation process had been long and difficult, but Marcus had emerged stronger. His neural interface upgrades allowed him to control multiple systems simultaneously, turning his physical limitations into technological advantages. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a pioneer in human-machine integration. The universe doesn't care about our limitations, Marcus concluded. It only cares about our solutions. And sometimes the most broken things can be the most creative. As the gathering dispersed, Marcus made his way through the station's corridors. The same passages that had once been obstacles now felt like conquered territory. His exoskeleton moved with fluid grace, a testament to engineering excellence and human determination. The broken engineer had become something more, a symbol of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to transform limitations into innovations, to find solutions where others saw only problems. Marcus Thorne was no longer just surviving his disability. He was using it to reshape the future.